Hi, my name is Sophia Hogshead. I'm a freshman at UNC Chapel Hill and a media and journalism major. For my media journalism 121 class, we were given the opportunity to direct a documentary on a subject of our choice. Because I am the caregiver of my two elderly grandparents who have underlying conditions, the risks of the current pandemic are constantly weighing on my mind. Laura Hughes, who is my aunt and a registered nurse at Western Carolina Regional Hospital, is in her free time from working in medical, surgical, and intensive care unit, contributes to improving the health of my grandparents. The anecdotes she has shared from her experiences as a nurse during the pandemic have inspired me to document her time working in the rural Appalachian Mountains and the struggle of mental health during the pandemic. Laura has been a nurse for over 15 years and has never experienced a year quite like 2020. Cherokee County, North Carolina, where Laura works, has had 806 COVID cases and 15 deaths. This number may seem small in comparison to other communities in the United States, but Cherokee County is very isolated and has about 30,000 people that live there. The hospital in which Laura works, Erlanger, Western Carolina Hospital, has about 40 beds in the medical surgical unit and 6 beds in the ICU. They've been at full capacity and COVID cases have been on the rise. Back in March, Laura had her first experience with a COVID death, and it was a man in his 80s who, at the time, had no underlying conditions and died. This moment was a pivotal part in the staff of Erlanger's lives, as they realized that they were going to have become frontline workers during a pandemic. The closest large hospital to Erlanger, Western Carolina, is Erlanger in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And due to the small staff at Erlanger, Western Carolina, and the lack of resources, it's been stressful on the staff at Erlanger, Western Carolina Hospital, like Laura. Cherokee County, North Carolina isn't the only rural community that has seen a surge of COVID cases in the past few months. Around the United States, recently there has been a rise in COVID cases in rural communities. And according to a graphic I got here from the CDC, 15% of all Americans live in rural areas. And rural Americans are at a greater risk of death from 5 leading causes than urban Americans due to the isolation and the higher chance of having underlying conditions. Laura's work environment has become more stressful in the past few weeks. Laura has lived in Cherokee County, North Carolina her entire life and has become very interconnected with the patients and people in her community. And to see firsthand many of the people that she grew up with and have known her entire life die has been very hard for her. Previously, Laura has been pretty emotionally healthy when it comes to dealing with death at her work, but since the pandemic, she's found it harder to separate her work life from her home life because the effects of the pandemic are everywhere. In the video, in the video interview I did with Laura, I show a lot about her and her son and how her life is at home and how she separates her work life and her home life. My personal life and my relationship with my grandparents, I wanted to bring awareness about the surging COVID cases in rural communities and how they have people living in rural America have a higher amount of underlying conditions. And I also wanted to bring awareness to the fact that I also wanted to talk about people like Laura who work on the front lines and have to separate their home life and their work life and the difficulties in doing so. And I want to thank Laura Hughes